All right. Hey, everyone. Welcome back for another deep dive.
Always fun.
Yeah. So today we're going to be looking at the book of Ruth.
Oh, nice.
And we're going to be using this blog post here called Bookish Bites. And yeah, it should be really interesting, I think.
Cool.
Yeah. So the book of Ruth is, one of those timeless stories that just seems to resonate with people across cultures and generations. And today we're going to be looking at what lessons we can apply to our own lives today from the book.
Awesome.
So to kind of recap the story a little bit, the book of Ruth is about a Moabite widow named Ruth.
Right.
And she decides to stay with her mother-in-law, Naomi, after both of their husbands die.
Yeah.
And instead of going back to her own people, she travels with Naomi back to Bethlehem.
Right, and that's a pretty big deal, right? Because back then, Moabites and Israelites weren't exactly friends.
Yeah, no kidding.
So it was a huge deal for Ruth to leave her own land and choose Naomi and her people over her own.
Right, it really shows how loyal she was. And one of the most famous lines from the book is when she tells Naomi, "Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God."
Yeah, that's powerful.
Imagine saying that.
I know, right?
That kind of commitment.
Yeah, especially back then, women didn't really have a lot of choices.
Right.
So for her to just say, this is my family, this is where I belong, it's pretty incredible.
It really is. So they arrive in Bethlehem, two widows, trying to make a new life for themselves. And Ruth starts working in the fields to help provide for them. And that's where she meets Boaz.
Right, a wealthy landowner.
Yeah.
And this is where we kind of come across this concept of a kinsman redeemer, which, might sound a little weird today, but it was a big deal back then.
Right.
So basically, a kinsman redeemer was like this person who was obligated to take care of vulnerable family members.
Like widows.
Exactly, especially widows. So Boaz sees what's going on with Ruth, and he steps up to help out.
And it wasn't without its risks, right?
No, absolutely not.
I mean, he was putting his reputation on the line,
Yeah.
all his resources to help this outsider,
Right.
And that's pretty awesome.
It's actually kind of interesting because even today, we still have kind of echoes of that.
Yeah.
Like thinking about, family and community and responsibility to each other.
Yeah, like helping people in need.
Exactly. Or taking care of your neighbor.
Yeah.
It's the same basic idea, helping people out.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, the story doesn't end there.
Oh, no.
They actually fall in love. And they get married.
Yeah.
And this brings security and happiness, not just for them, but for Naomi as well.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because their marriage had implications beyond just their own personal happiness.
Absolutely.
Their son, Obed, actually became the grandfather of King David.
Wow.
So Ruth, who started as, this Moabite widow,
Right.
she becomes a key figure in the lineage of Jesus.
Talk about an impact.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's incredible.
So Bookish Bites talks about 4 key takeaways from the book of Ruth
Okay.
that are still super relevant to our lives today. The first one is loyalty,
Right.
which we've kind of already touched on a bit.
Yeah.
But what do you think is so inspiring about Ruth and Naomi's relationship?
Well, I think it really shows that true loyalty, it means sacrifice. Ruth really put her own needs aside to be there for Naomi, and that's something I think we can all learn from.
Absolutely.
Like think about your own friends and family.
Right.
Where do you see that kind of loyalty?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Right.
The next takeaway is faith. Ruth choosing to embrace Naomi's God.
Yeah.
It shows us that faith can evolve and grow.
Right. It's not just about, accepting some belief. It's about acting on it.
Exactly. The third takeaway is love. And the love story of Ruth and Boaz, it goes beyond just romance.
Yeah.
It's about compassion and kindness and really caring for another person.
Yeah, it's about action.
Yeah.
It's not just words.
Exactly. So what do you think that kind of love looks like?
Well, I think it's about seeing the worth in everyone, no matter who they are or where they come from.
Right.
Boaz saw Ruth. He saw her strength. He saw everything she had been through.
Yeah.
And he chose to love her. And that's powerful.
It is. And the last takeaway is redemption.
Right.
And we see that in Ruth's journey, starting out as an outsider
Yep.
and then becoming a part of the community. It's a reminder that, anyone can change.
Yeah. Second chances are possible.
Exactly. So what do you think about redemption?
Well, I think it's about acknowledging the past,
Mm-hmm.
but choosing to move forward.
Right.
And, forgiving yourself.
Yeah, and others.
Yeah.
So all these themes, loyalty, faith, love, redemption,
Yeah.
so relevant today.
Absolutely.
They really give us a way to live our lives with purpose and meaning.
They do. So, as you're thinking about the story of Ruth, I want you to think about this. How can you bring these ideas into your own life? Where can you show more loyalty?
Yeah.
Whose story needs redeeming?
That's a great question.
Because, even back then, people were asking the same questions we ask today.
Right.
And the book of Ruth gives us some answers.
Yeah, it's really amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that about wraps up our deep dive on the book of Ruth.
That was fun.
It was. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
We'll see you next time.